Sangu is a lonely, poor screenwriter, unemployed, friendless, and his parents are dead. However, his main problem is that he hasn't been able to sleep for more than half a year because every time he tries, a demon appears in his dreams and turns everything into violent nightmares. Tonight, Sangu is dreaming that he's on the subway when the demon arrives, grabs him by the hair, and after making a hole in the floor, shoves his head in it, killing him. He wakes up right after dying in the dream and decides to try writing something, but the landlord knocks on the door saying he brought him food. Sangu escapes through the window because he has no money to pay the rent. As he walks through the streets, he remembers all the specialists he visited to understand the problem with his dreams. Psychologists, doctors, scientists, religious figures, and others. They all had different theories about dreams and what they could mean, but nothing concrete that could help him. He stops at a food stall and orders a crepe without an egg because it's all he can afford, but the vendor gives him an egg for free as a courtesy. While he waits for the crepe to be ready, he watches the cafe across the street where the girl he has a crush on works. He met her years ago when he was at a bar with friends and she was there, playing with her band. Her voice was beautiful, and he has thought of her ever since. When the crepe is ready, Sangu sits down to eat but is surprised by San, his manager. Sangu runs off and drops the crepe along the way, but he is too weak to get far. San catches up to him and takes him to a restaurant where he forces Sangu to watch him eat, while scolding him for not fulfilling the contract and not delivering the script on time. Sangu tries to explain that his insomnia doesn't let him concentrate or write, but San doesn't listen and demands the script be ready in 10 days. After that, Sangu returns to his apartment and discovers it's locked with all his belongings in the hallway. The landlord has finally evicted him. He goes to a cafe to try to write there, but he's too hungry to think and ends up falling asleep. The demon appears again, puts chains on his neck, and starts slamming Sangu's head against the table. Once again, he wakes up in the morning right after dying in the dream and discovers that his laptop has been stolen. Without his work tool and starting to confuse nightmares with reality, Sangu sends a message to San saying he is going to commit suicide to join his parents. He chooses the roof of the building across from the cafe and watches Ruer as he climbs to the edge, ready to jump. But the crepe vendor interrupts him, offering him free food. The man climbs onto the roof and, while Sangu eats, talks to him about the different views people have on death and dreams. He comes to a simple conclusion. When Sangu has those nightmares, he should tell himself, "I'm dreaming," to get out of them faster. Sangu stays on the roof, watching Ruer until nightfall. Then, he sells his cell phone to get some money and buy food. He goes to a convenience store where he considers stealing some things but changes his mind when he realizes he's being watched. He eats what he bought outside the store and gets a scare when Ruer suddenly appears, showing concern for him. This seems good to be true. And soon, Sangu discovers that Ruer is actually the demon, who starts pushing him against the glass so the store employee can see him. This looks like a panic attack. The demon grabs Sangu and, while stabbing him with its sword, throws him through the window. Sangu grabs the sword, remembers the crepe vendor's advice, and tells himself, "I'm dreaming," which allows him to wake up in mid-fall. In real life, he's also flying through the broken glass, but although he is not stabbed, he mysteriously finds the demon's sword in his hands. He flees before the ambulance, called by the employee, arrives and spends the night in the park, examining the sword and making sure he isn't dreaming again. In the morning, he goes to the flea market to sell it, but the buyer's excitement makes him realize he has something valuable in his hands. So, he decides to go to a pawn shop, where he receives the sword's real value, 20,000. Sangu wastes no time and starts spending. He buys a new computer, eats at a fancy restaurant, and stays in a luxury hotel. When night falls, he takes sleeping pills and waits for the usual dream to begin. The dream also takes place in the hotel. He leaves the room and explores the hallway. He picks up a vase and says, "I'm dreaming." But nothing happens. He decides to explore a bit more. It's at that moment that the demon appears, chasing him with a giant golden axe. The demon strikes him with the weapon, causing several injuries. But after a few blows, Sangu manages to take the axe and says, "I'm dreaming." Once again, he wakes up with the weapon in his hands and without any injuries. The axe is sold at the same pawn shop, and the money is immediately spent again. Sangu buys stylish clothes, a new car, and spends the night drinking with some women at a bar. When he returns to the hotel room, he doesn't let them come in with him. He just gives them money for a taxi before going to sleep. This time, he tries a new trick. He looks at photos of a major museum in a book before falling asleep, and the trick works because the dream takes place in the exact location from the photos. Sang-gu observes the surroundings, admiring all the antiques before sitting down to wait for the demon to arrive. This time, the demon appears with a firearm, which ruins Sang-gu's plan. He starts running and dodging the shots, but eventually, the demon catches and kills him. Sang-gu wakes up in the hotel room, but failed to get anything from the dream. He takes another sleeping pill. Back in the dream, Sang-gu starts running again, and after dodging some shots with an incredible leap, he manages to grab 2 antiques before waking up. This time, he takes the treasures to professional antique dealers, who pay him 2 million for them. He faces some questions about his methods, but fortunately manages to evade them all. Upon leaving the shop, he is approached by an irritated San, who thought he was dead. San invites him to dinner at a fancy restaurant and returns the money he had received for the script, saying he no longer writes. The next day, Sang-gu finally enters a cafe, and after ordering a latte asks if she recognizes him, but she doesn't. He also asks why she is selling the cafe, and she explains it's because she has no customers and the business only generates debt. Later that night, Sang-gu gets drunk during dinner with San, who wants to know the secret to his success. San takes Sang-gu back to the hotel room and, after putting him to bed, pretends to leave but comes back to look at his wallet and checkbook. He gets a scare when Sang-gu wakes up holding golden chains in his hands. Now that he knows the secret, San begs him to make him his partner in this new business, something Sang-gu considers for a moment. The next day, Sang-gu buys Ruer's cafe and tells her he still wants her to manage it. They can split the profits, but he will cover the losses. To show her gratitude, Ruer invites him to dinner. During dinner, they talk about the new business, and Ruer expresses her suspicion that Sang-gu wants more than just money from this deal. From then on, Sang-gu starts having dream adventures regularly, while San protects his body as he sleeps. Some of the dreams include, for example, robbing a bank where Sang-gu demonstrates how much he is learning to control his powers. He starts fighting the demon and manages to move objects with his mind. He also begins to bring back larger objects like a red car. Sometime later, Ruer's cafe is full of customers because Sang-gu sent San to pay people on the streets to go there. He also bag of money for the crepe vendor as a thank you for the times he gave him free food. After the cafe closes, Sang-gu goes for a walk with Ruer, who, with a few words, guesses that he is a screenwriter. Sang-gu starts walking her home every day after work, and one night, he lets her drive the red car he brought from the dream, telling her the car is hers. This luck makes her assume he is a very famous screenwriter. As she drives at night, Sang-gu remembers the day he met her. After her concert, he saw her crying after a fight with her ex. After that, he followed her to the movies several times. Sang-gu decides to take her to the movies in the present. Ruer accepts, but this leads her to wonder when they will see a movie written by him. Not wanting to get caught in his lie, Sang-gu writes a real script and gives it to San to read while he dreams. As Ruer is always on his mind, Sang-gu dreams that he is in bed with several copies of her, which makes him wake up quickly. When he wakes up, he finds San crying over how incredible the script is. Their plan begins to take shape. They sell the script to a film production company, offering their own money to hire the biggest stars and create a huge hit. They even organize a special dinner event to celebrate, and Sang-gu brings Ruer as his date. There's even a special presentation about his career, completely fabricated, claiming he has written successful films but never wanted credit because he preferred to travel and see the world. A few days later, during a dream, Sang-gu discovers something very peculiar: the body of a meditating monk. When he tries to take the monk's belt, his hand disintegrates. He doesn't give up, and when his hand regenerates, he tries again. Upon removing the belt, the monk moves to touch his chest with 2 smoking fingers, but Sang-gu doesn't seem very concerned. The usual demon doesn't appear, and both the treasure and the monk disintegrate. One night, Sang-gu takes Ruer to the rooftop where he almost committed suicide and shows her a fireworks figure waits for him on the balcony. Sang-gu approaches and discovers it's an older version of himself, which is now disintegrating. When he wakes up, he finds a new scar on his shoulder, and as the hours pass, other scars appear in the places where the demon had injured him in previous dreams. The next morning, he goes to find the crepe vendor to ask for more advice. But just as he is about to reach his destination, a van pulls up beside him and kidnaps him. When the bag is finally taken off his head, Sanggu realizes he is in an abandoned building, surrounded by a gang of criminals led by Kang. Sanggu says he will pay whatever they ask, and after agreeing on 10 million, he calls San to bring the money. When San arrives, Kang's men take the money and also take San, whom Kang uses as a hostage to negotiate. With no other option, Sanggu takes the whole group to his apartment, along with an unconscious San, and shows them the secret room where he keeps his antiques. Meanwhile, Kang tries to make Sanggu confess how he got those rare items. Someone arrives at the building to see him. Ruer, the receptionist, informs him of her arrival over the intercom, and Sanggu breaks up with Ruer at that moment so she will leave and be safe. Seeing how upset, the receptionist mentions that for some reason, the door to Sanggu's apartment is still open and lets her go up. As soon as Ruer gets out of the elevator, one of the thugs captures her and takes her to the same place where Sanggu is being held. Kang starts provoking her, trying to destabilize her by saying Sanggu is lying to her. This causes discontent in another thug, who believed they were only there for the money. As punishment for his indiscretion, Kang puts on golden brass knuckles and beats the man, while San secretly starts to wake up. When Kang turns towards Ruer, she kicks him to defend herself, and San takes the opportunity to attack the man holding him with a vase. Sanggu bites the thug holding him and manages to escape, but not before being stabbed. The three of them flee while Kang shoots the thug he beat, but Sanggu can barely walk due to his injuries. The men catch up with them on the stairs, and one of them manages to stab Sanggu again. San sacrifices himself by staying behind and distracting the thugs while Sanggu and Ruer escape. A normal man can't face two trained men, and San is beaten to death. One of the thugs manages to capture Sanggu and Ruer on the next floor, beating them both and throwing them from side to side, regardless of Sanggu stabbing him in the back with a dagger. Both end up passing out. Sanggu suddenly finds himself in mysterious ruins, covered by a black substance that disappears when he starts to move. After exploring the place, she read a story of his in a magazine and found it very good, though she thinks he needs a bit of luck to succeed. In the meantime, she offers him a job at her cafe, which makes Sanggu break down and start crying. It's revealed that all this time, Ruer always knew he was watching her. Sometime later, while they are working at the cafe, Ruer gives Sanggu a gift, a new laptop so he can write. Later, Sanggu meets San at a restaurant to give him back the money, saying he can't write on commission and only wants to write what he truly desires. San not only refuses the money, but gives even more back to Sanggu because he managed to sell one of his old scripts. To celebrate, this time, Sanggu pays the bill. Many days later, now satisfied with his life, Sanggu goes to the crepe vendor to order food. The man takes the opportunity to return his money and shows him a scar on his stomach, saying that he too had the same power and learned that a humble life is better. As Sanggu listens to the stories from the last dream appear behind him, revealing that the new demon that killed the thugs has been following him ever since he reappeared at the convenience store.